Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs, and this week we are talking about contribution. And I'm so delighted to have with me Corrina Lindby, who is the coach to the coaches, the trainer to the trainers, the mentor to the mentors. Corrina is from the answer of yes and is passionate about helping business owners understand the requirements to protect their livelihood if the unforeseen happens. Corrina's unique background as a qualified accountant who ran her own financial counseling practice, work health safety consultant and trainer who built a registered training organization make her the go-to person for anyone who needs help with their business. Corrina and her organization, The Answer is Yes, convert experts' knowledge into online courses. Corrina offers access to affordable, essential expert professional training without the need to engage an expensive specialist consultant. Welcome back, Corrina. We just finished talking about contribution in life, and you went beautifully into, and whenever I worked in a job.
Yes. Whenever I worked in a job, it was always about what can I do to help them grow and to do things better. And I know one of my very first jobs was actually working for the Bank of New South Wales. That was what Westpac was called before they became Westpac. And it was a very quiet day. And I remember just looking at the storeroom and thinking, I'm going to clean it all up. And the boss comes along and goes, why are you doing that? And he goes, well, it was messy and it needed cleaning and sorting. So I decided to clean it. He goes, oh, okay. And I remember another time I was doing work experience actually for the Justice Department in Mackay. And I'd been there for about a week. And so previously I'd worked in the bank. So I was a teller and I'd done a lot of stuff. And I noticed this one day that the front office people, nobody had come in and it was sick and the customers were starting to come in. So I just got behind the counter and I started serving them, taking the money, and the registrar comes along and says, what are you doing? I says, well, there was nobody here, so I thought I'd help the customers. And it's just like, okay, so that's what I did. And so I've always gone, what can I do to help? And I think we can either just sit back and just do as we're told, or we can go that extra mile. And I think that's, when somebody being an employer now, that's what, from an employer's perspective, that's what attracts me to people that I want to invest time into, because they're wanting to achieve, they're wanting to help my business grow. So, people don't realize those little contributions do get noticed, and they can be making a huge difference to it. When employers ask, has anyone got any ideas, and people sit back and everybody looks at everybody else, that's like frustration to the nth degree, because you want them to contribute, you want them to be part of the organization, and they just like sit back and go, okay, and I think, why am I employing you? So if you're not contributing, if you're not giving out of yourself, because that's when great ideas come, when people contribute.
Yeah. The problem that I found is I worked with the De Bono Institute for quite a few years, and I've run lots and lots of strategic and creative thinking sessions. It's often that people don't want to give away their ideas because they get the first answer is yes, but, or we've tried that before, or that's expensive, or they come up with great ideas and they get completely discarded. There's nobody, they just don't get turned into anything actionable. There is no appreciation. And people start hoarding their ideas like gold. They don't want to give it away. And then there's also this, I don't want to look stupid in front of other people, because if I come up with a stupid idea, people may lose respect for me, or they may not approve of my ideas, or whatever it might be. Whereas I go, there is no such thing as a stupid idea. When you, and this is Edward's thinking, it was when you can always tailor something, you can shape it, you can do something, but a mind expanded never regains its original dimensions. So, and if we're all in this together and we're all contributing, that's how we grow. That's how we expand. And that's how we create new leaders as well. Because if it's all about compliance and waiting for somebody to come make decisions and come up with ideas, we're not going to expand. We're not going to grow. We're just going to repeat the same thing over and over again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's one of the discussions that I have a lot with especially new business owners. They've gotten into it it's changing the way that they're thinking. Their thinking has been traditionally and employees thinking. And so they then go out into this business, into a world of entrepreneurship, and they've still got employees thinking. Mm-hmm. And so how do we change that? And this is where, truthfully, plug here, is the courses. A lot of what we create is all about how can we expand your journey? How can you contribute back? And then people in the workplace, I'll be saying to them is this: why are you waiting until your boss enrolls you into a course? What are you doing to educate yourself? What are you doing to take responsibility for your career trajectory? What are you doing to make things different? Why are you sitting back waiting for somebody else to tell you what you need to be learning? How are you shaping your future? How are you shaping the future of the business you're working with? How are you shaping the future of your community? What are you doing? And it's just like, I think if we're not learning, we're not growing. We're actually going backwards.
Absolutely.
We're getting stale. And I think that's the thing that I've enjoyed about creating all these courses. I've got all these great minds that I see all the different thinking when we're putting the courses together. I feel like all their collective wisdom is just coming in, and it's just like, it's totally amazing to get the different learning. I haven't got the answers to everything. Hang on, I've got to say that yes, the answer is yes, but I will get it tomorrow if I don't have the answer today. But we're constantly growing and evolving. I think that's how people contribute in their work environment, is they don't wait to be told what to learn next. Own it. Own your own growth.
The problem, I think, is, I'm totally generalizing here, because I think we're polarizing into a society where there are lots of selfish people, and on the other hand, we've got a lot of selfless people. We're teaching people how to drip feed, and you and I know that you can't put training courses together anymore with long sessions, because people don't have the attention span. So it's all about catering to shortened attention spans, overload, mental health issues, again, there's all the expectations that people have of themselves, and that creates a lot of, not entitlement as such, not always. I think children are entitled, and they're rightfully entitled, but as adults, we're not. But it's that expectation that somebody has to make things happen for us. But on the other hand, we've got the social entrepreneurs, the B Corps, the companies that really want to make a difference in the world. And again, I find sometimes we need to find the middle ground. It's not about giving away all your possessions and just being there for people, because again, we've talked about that before. If something comes for free, people often don't value it. But it's about contributing to the growth and the evolution of society. Again, what kind of leaders do we want? Who do we want to see the world, who take over the world, to make it a place where we contribute to people's growth and happiness, right? Instead of having another house and another car and, maybe another club membership. I'm totally generalizing, because I'm provoking people here. I'm inviting people to just think about, how do you contribute at work, and how do you contribute by doing what you're doing?
Yeah, and going back to what you're saying about people holding on to their ideas, there's a difference between holding on to the ideas, and then if they're just holding on to it for the sake of holding on to it, you're not contributing either. So this is where there's this really rise of the people have these side gigs. If that's really important, create your own side gig out of that idea that you have. If you're not going to contribute it towards the person that you're working for, well, think about how you can develop it into an idea that can give back to other people. I've seen a huge rise in training where people want to help others. A lot of the transformational courses, they're out there, they want to help others, so they're giving back that way. But it's twofold. It can also help them grow. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I always joke, I've got the perfect job because I get paid to develop myself. I really value that. So I think I think in terms of working, contribution at work, as you said, you can clean up a storage space, but you can also contribute to somebody's ideas. You can do all sorts of things. I mean, again, we have these companies where you get time off to contribute to a charity 1 day a year, right? So think beyond that. Again, how can you contribute with time? How can you contribute with your knowledge, your wisdom? It's, again, there are all sorts of ways in which you can contribute at work that may not make a difference necessarily to the bottom line, which, if it does, great, but it may make a difference to people's well-being around you. Not that we're in charge of that. I don't think that's, again, I always say we care for children, but we care about adults.
Yeah.
But it's about being there for people, and we're not islands. We're, community matters.
I think if you really want to make a great difference to businesses and contribute, one of the courses that we've put together that I truly love is the customer service courses. We got one for retail and one for professionals, because what it teaches you is how to think about others, how to think about the customers, how to think about your workmates. It takes you from that headspace, it's all about me, to how can I make a difference in this job. And why I like it is because it can turn an ordinary business into extraordinary business. If you want to make a difference, work out what it means to give extraordinary customer service in your workplace, and you'll see a growth in that business. You'll see a growth in you, and you will get this. You get this buzz when you've realised that you've helped somebody. You've turned their bad day into a good day. That is the vibe that you live for. If you make that difference, you're contributing to somebody's well-being. And I think that's why I really like those courses in particular, as well as they've got great acting and everything in them. But it really gets you out of that headspace of just thinking about yourself. You have to think about the customer. What is the customer's point of view? What are my co-workers? How do I contribute to them? Just, how many people in the height, you're not actually saying good morning to them. These little things make a huge difference. That's how you can contribute. You can contribute also by being a positive person. Spreading optimism. The more optimism we can spread around the place changes the whole feeling in a workplace if they're positive and optimistic. And I guess that's, why when I get on the calls, it's like, good morning, gorgeous, how are you? Or, occasionally I do work at a local government agency, and somebody walks in and they might be 84 years old, and I go, good morning, young lady, how can I help you today? And they go, and I know I've just made their day. They go, oh, she's calling me a young lady. Oh, we have a conversation. And those conversations, look, I helped this person the other day, and we were still there 45 minutes later because she needed to talk. They had something to say.
Absolutely.
So I contributed to listening to them, to adding to it, giving them, I wasn't busy, so we were chatting. And so it made her day. We contributed to it. Yeah. So there's everything we can do that can make contributions in our work life. And I think putting other people in your forefront and your thinking can make a huge difference to an organisation.
Yeah. So when you're mentioning this, my mind went to psychological safety, which is also a term that's been around at the moment, and it's being utilized a lot. And it's all about building trust and rapport, and that sense of I can be who I am. And it's not necessarily about authenticity in that sense of, letting it all hang out, but it's about, I can contribute, I can share my ideas, I can be vulnerable. I can have an off day without being immediately chastised for not performing. So that's the kind of atmosphere that creates a great team, and that creates then great customer service, because people are not coming from a place of resentment.
Correct.
I find that companies where people are, where customer service is not great, it's where their needs are not really being met. And they get into this place of, oh God, now I have to give when I have nothing to give. And I mean, I always say, you can't pour from an empty jug.
Correct. So
it's important that, again, while selfless contribution is really important, it's also really important to give to ourselves.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't really know how to do that. I'm working with a client at the moment, and she's very digital. It's like it's either this or it's that. It's either about her or it's about others. So there's a lot of suffering involved in her work. She's like, oh, I have to do this now. And I'm like, well, let's change it to I choose to. And if there are things that you can negotiate, why wouldn't you negotiate those? Well, because, and so she's getting into this place where she goes, this is not working for me. I'm going to talk about it, but I'm also waiting until I can do it in such a way that it contributes to our relationship rather than cuts it off. And I think that's a really important skill to have as well, knowing when to contribute, when to say no, when to be able to say, you know what, it's time for self-care right now.
Yes. Yeah. I think the self-care, self-care is not selfish, because it's like in the plane, putting on your own oxygen mask first before you help somebody else.
Exactly.
And you're right, you can't give from an empty jug. And I know when I was a financial counsellor, I had to walk away at that point, because after 12 years of giving, I'd run empty. Yeah. And you're in trouble when the phone rings and you cringe and you don't answer the phone because it's another problem you've got to solve for somebody. And you have to give back to yourself. You have to put yourself up there. And it is a hard battle sometimes. For those who are constantly giving or constantly contributing or going out there, it's actually the flip side. It's sometimes we forget that sometimes we have to be that little bit selfish and look after ourselves. So, when we contribute, we've got to have a balance. You can't go all in and you can't go all out. You've got to find a middle ground.
Yeah. And that means turning off the phone at night, not answering emails or writing emails at 11 o'clock at night, and, taking over what, again, micromanage. I mean, this is a whole new conversation we're starting here. Again, it's about, being able to support people in growing and contributing without taking over and being a parent. And then just taking care of their needs from that place of, I know best and you don't have to worry yourself about that, or the critical, I can do this better than you, so let me do that. And that's not really then contributing, that's just micromanaging. Yes. There's a very fine line sometimes.
Yes, there is. And one of my greatest goals in life is to be able to clone myself, and that so far it's taking about 8 people so far, and we haven't even got there yet.
But you are contributing by creating the platform, and giving people the space to put their knowledge and information on there, so that people can take care of themselves.
Yeah,
good balance.
And well, that's why we're doing it, because there's only so much you can do as a coach and a consultant. You've only got a finite hours in a week, but online training is great because there's no limit. Create it once and then it's out there. Yeah. And it's the fact that it's also the legacy that you're leaving for people. I know we've had 2 trainers who've passed away, but their courses are still on our platform. So it's indefinitely their courses live on that knowledge. We grow and learn all through life, but what is our legacy going to leave? And yes, we want to leave our legacy to our kids and our family, but it's beyond that. Is that we've come by all this knowledge and wisdom. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to leave it for others? And that's where online learning comes in. Yeah. And I prefer online learning and courses as opposed to books, because you can't edit the book. Once it's printed, it's done and dusted, and then you have to do reprints. With an online course, it's constantly evolving. It can constantly be updated. It's almost like it's a living document. And so you can add extras, and you can put personality into them. You can put people into them. You can put activities into them. But that's the legacy that lives on forever. Yeah. Yeah. Totally. All your years of experience, what you have learned goes into an online course now, and that others can benefit from that knowledge. So
and at work in leadership, whatever you share with people, whatever you empower people to do, that continues living on. Because I always say, your job as a leader, your ultimate job as a leader is to create other leaders. Yes. And so it's about giving, it's about, again, it's about expanding the framework rather than maintaining the same framework. And I love it when it can evolve and grow. like, again, it's not static. It's like we're taking in new information all the time and then being able to update that and being able to say, you know what, I've got a new way of doing this. I know this has worked so far, but let's try something new rather than reinventing the wheel over and over again. And that's, yeah. So I think we're on the same page here.
Yeah, sounds awesome. Yes. Growth.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a very thought-stimulating conversation, at least for me. And I hope for those who are listening and watching. And thank you so much for being here. And thank you for everybody as well. And we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Angela.